Hello everybody, John here, and today on To The Garage we're doing something a little more unusual for me. I'm doing a side-by-side comparison, a bit of a review. So what we're going to look at is snow foam. I've done a few videos in the past about how I prefer to wash my cars, and I tend to use snow foam, and I use this stuff as a rule, Carplan Demon Foam. Snow foam car shampoo. And why? Because it doesn't cost a lot, it smells nice, and it seems to do a pretty good job. So that's what I always use, and I add it neat to the Karcher snow foam gun or doser on my Karcher K4 full control. So that's my normal regime. However, I've been doing a bit of research lately and just wondering if any of the big brands that you have to pay a bit more for, that are more dedicated snow foams, that's pretty good just as a shampoo. You can put it in a bucket. This is very much a snow foam liquid. Does it really make much of a difference? So I've got hold of probably the number 2 in most professional reviews. So I've gone for this one, Polar Blast. Another brand that I really like. I've got a lot of their stuff. And with this, although it's more expensive than my normal, what this tells me is Polar Blast can be used at various dilutions depending on density of foam required. A good starting point is 100 millilitres of product to 500 millilitres of water in your foaming bottle. Adjust gun settings to increase or decrease foam. So this can be diluted. That I'm using neat. So actually this may turn out cheaper, which is another reason for trying it out. So what I'm going to do is, I've got Yogi, our trusty Jeep Cherokee, which has the advantage for this, and disadvantage in many ways, of being jet black. It really shows up the muck, and she is filthy. My normal process for cleaning the car is to jet wash her off, then apply snow foam, let it dwell, blast it off. Then I apply some more snow foam, agitate it with my lamb's wool mitt, blast it off. And these days I'm very lucky, I've got a Raceglaze filter giving me 0 ppm water. So I just hose off the car with rinse water and let it dry in the sun. For this test, I'm going to take advantage of the fact the car is so filthy to apply snow foam to the 2 halves of the car. I'm going to put my normal, the Demon Foam, on the right hand side, and I'm going to put the Autoglyms Polar Blast on the left hand side. There won't be a perfect line. I'm not going to be masking the car off or anything like that. And I'm just going to spray it on and let it dwell and just see what happens when I rinse it off and see if we can see a difference. These are not sponsored videos. Nobody paid me to make this, and I bought that off of Amazon, I believe, and I bought that from Halfords, and it's all my own money, and these are my opinions, nobody else's. So starting with the Demon Foam, already got a little bit in the dispenser from the last time I used it. Put it up to the first gradient. It's quite economical to use this sort of technique. You don't need a lot even when you're using it neat. So I'm going to use this neat and use this much, and I'll use the Polar Blast as it suggests, diluted 5:1, but I'll start with that much in a container and add 5 lots of water. So that's how I'm going to compare these. Right, Lance is on. For both tests, no particular science, I'm leaving it on that setting, and I shan't move it. This is the coverage you get from neat Demon foam. Okay, so we've got, I would say, a little under half of what I started with left. So I'd have probably got through the whole of that if I'd done the whole of the car. Running off this panel reasonably quickly in terms of a foam sheet, but it is keeping it wet, which is kind of the point of snow foams. They don't dry out instantly like water would, particularly on a blowy or sunny day. Seems to have stuck a little bit better here. That's probably just this pool. And I could definitely get a thicker coating if I turned it all the way up on my gun, but not significantly so. So that is the effect with the Demon foam. What we'll do now is go around to the other side. And due to a small technical error, I don't have the footage of me spraying the foam on, but this is the moment I realised the camera had failed. So literally I've just stopped squirting it on. So you can see there is a distinctly different look to it. The Autoglyms foam is sort of smoother, creamier overall coverage. Okay, sorry for the small continuity error, but I was in hurry up mode. So I've just applied the Polar Blast to the left hand side, and it went on thicker despite being diluted 5:1. We're about 3 or 4 minutes after application on the Polar Blast, and only another minute and a half longer on the other side. Now, good coverage. There's some really tough stuff for it to help dissolve. Obviously the bonnet's a bit of a blurred area in terms of where the joint is, because you get overspray. But if we come around this side, you can see that it's definitely been loosening the dirt, but is close to being spent already. I think that shot's pretty conclusive. But given the extreme version of this test, because I've not rinsed the car, the Polar Blast is a different animal. I'll give it a couple more minutes and see if Polar Blast looks as dry as Demon foam. Well, it's now been a full 15 minutes, and if I show you from the front, it's quite telling. Obviously allow overspray, it wasn't an exact science in terms of where the line is. This side of the car, you can see that Demon foam has started to dissolve the dirt, which was very heavy, it has to be said. But it's entirely gone. I mean, it actually looks dry. The right hand side of the car has got quite a lot of foam still left on it. It is drying now, hence the timing of showing you this for 15 minutes. But there's been a lot more time in contact to do dissolving. So what I'm going to do now is try to evenly jet wash with water the whole car and see what the effect is. I wouldn't expect a car to be properly clean with no agitation just from snow foam straight into a dirty car, what I've just done. We're still waiting for the water to dry off a little bit to see the result, but there's one thing was quite evident straight away, and that's wherever there's bird lime on the car, despite evenly playing the hose, jet wash I should say, it's tended to remain, or at least leave a mark on this side. Now if I go over to the side I used the Autoglyms snow foam on, there is a little bit, where's one, but it was very heavily stained here, and that loosened up and fell off really easily. And you know, birds aren't picky, this car was covered. Really isn't too much in the way of witness marks from bird lime on this side of the car. So it's my first noticeable difference. I'll give it a few more minutes to dry off so we can see the underlying paint. So Autoglyms Polar Blast side, dried off. There is still bird lime marks. Now that it's dried you can see them better. And there's an even film, I would say, of road grime across the car. You can still see the dirt's blown back there, a little bit of bird lime. Come around the other side and it's definitely not taken as much off on the flat surfaces. Still pretty dirty, and down the sides, if you can see this as well as I can, it's really noticeably dirty. And it's quite an extreme area. So I have to conclude, I mean that's not bad. Obviously there's a fading from one into the other on the bonnet and boot, but I think you can see reasonably clearly the left hand side has more remaining dirt than the right hand side has. Still that really stubborn piece there. So not game changing, but noticeably better. What I'm going to do now is apply both foams again. I'll show you the finish on them both. I'll do the Arctic first, then the Demon foam, just to give you how they go on. And then I'm going to agitate them and rinse them off. Okay, so first the Autoglyms Arctic Ice. And just for fun, on both, I'm going to turn them up to maximum foam on my gun. Still 5-1 on the Arctic ice, and I'll do the Demon Foam at 100%. Now switching back to the Demon Foam. Even on full, it's not quite as full a covering. It does look a slightly thinner film, but you know, not game-changingly different, if I'm honest. What I'm going to do is give it 5 minutes to dwell, then agitate with my wet mitt. Okay, so just come back after 5 minutes of dwell, and bear in mind that the Demon Foam, which is the side you're looking at now, was applied second, and therefore has been on there 1 minute, maybe less. That's the effect. Still some on there, but plenty that's dried. Now obviously there's a degree to which the orientation of the car affects this, but it's only about 12 degrees today. So although there's a little bit more light on the other side, it's not going to significantly mean that the car's warmed up. Not a lot of breeze. So yeah, as far as my experiment can go, cling time looks significantly less with the Demon Foam. I'm going to limit myself to a basic single pass, making sure I hit everything, but trying not to particularly labour on any areas, just to keep it consistent side to side. All I can tell from doing that is there was more residual soap on the Autoglyms side, but again, not game-changingly so. So what I'm going to do now is jet wash it vigorously and then give it a 0 ppm rinse. So for those not familiar with my channel, the yellow hose you're about to see is connected to this thing, my Raceglaze 0 ppm water filter system. Which essentially means I don't have to dry my cars because there's nothing in the water. I'm sure it's psychological, but it does feel when you apply this filtered water, it's wetter. It looks and feels smoother, drains off the vehicle differently. Purely psychological, I'm sure. But So a good 10 minutes later, here's a dried off car. Now remember, I did the minimalistic of washing to really emphasize the difference, if there is any, between the two snow foams. And this is the side that I did with Demon Foam, and I think you can see that still quite a lot of dirt, but looks like it got dissolved by the soap and it ran down the side of the car and then reset, probably because the foam dried out just a little too quickly. But yeah, it's cleaner. And we come around the other side, and again, not perfect. There's some stains, and that's where there was some bird lime, but we're not seeing that same effect where it looks like dirt got dissolved and then reset. I would go as far as to say this side I could tolerate leaving as is. Likewise, this side of the bonnet I could leave as is, whereas this side, too many stains and marks, and I will have to get the sponge out again and give it a good rub down. Now, I know I can get a really good finish with the Demon Foam, so please don't read into it that Demon Foam is no good. It's just I did that really quick wash in order to emphasize any differences. Conclusions. This is my old standby. I think this is my new standby. Is this one much better in terms of cleaning qualities? No. It's subjectively better. I'm happy to say that that one does a better job than this one, but probably not hugely significant. When you take my experiment and the weaknesses in my experiment into account, let's be really generous and say they do exactly the same job. However, this one costs twice as much by volume as this one does. However, dilute this 5 to 1, meaning potentially it's a little cheaper than this one. Probably is a lot cheaper actually, but we'll be generous and say it's fractionally cheaper. Fractionally cheaper, subjectively better. I'm going to move over to that one, which won't stop me recommending Demon Foam as a good off-the-shelf. You can pick it up in any car parts store. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. I'm going for that one now. Now, I'm off to go and wash Yogi the Jeep properly. I hope you found that interesting, guys. I did. And I have learned something. It has changed what I'm going to buy in future. So, see you soon. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.